Hello everyone, my name is Riechert and I'm going to talk about one of my favorite literary pieces from this subject, and this is The Verger by Somerset Maugham. So let me tell you a little bit about this story. Um, it tells us the story of a man who works as a verger for St. Peter's Church in Neville Square. He has worked there for many years, proving himself to be a very good worker, very trustworthy, especially. And following some changes in the direction of this institution, he ends up being fired because he is not able to read or write. So he decides to invest some of his savings on his own business just by paying attention to the surroundings of the area and finding the lack of some tobacco stores. So he decides ultimately to invest in that. Later on, he finds himself owning many shops and being a successful person. This is a story I enjoyed a lot. I really liked the lesson it gives, and especially at the very end, the last dialogue we read, where he's asked where would he be, the main character, right? Where would he be if he knew how to read, how to write? And he answers very humbly like this: I can tell you, sir, I'd be verger for St. Peter's, Neville Square, which tells us that you can be successful in many ways, and knowledge is not like a determinant factor for it. So, in this story, there are three themes that I find the most interesting ones to talk about, and those are humility and appearances, variety of knowledge, and dedication. So, our main character is constantly depicted as a very humble person. We can see this from the very beginning, from the very start. In this quote, we can see how humble he is, even in the way he feels about wearing his newest work attire. Instead, he prefers to wear it for special occasions and holds to his oldest clothes, almost as if it was a dignifying gesture. There is usually a common misconception between being humble and not recognizing one's self worth. Those are two different things. They are not opposites, because part of being humble is recognizing how good or how bad we are at doing things, but not making a word out of it, just living with it, trying to improve what we don't like, trying to stay the way we like. And our main character is a very good example of this, of recognizing how good or how bad we are at doing things. Um, we can see that even after how successful he gets, um, he's still the same modest person we are introduced to at the beginning of the story. As we can see here, when the bank manager asks Foreman what would be of him if he was able to read, and our character answers that he would be the verger of St. Peter's. Then again, with this ironic answer, Foreman shows us that he hasn't forgotten where he came from. Probably this verger part of his life is a part of his story that he doesn't want to change, he doesn't want to forget about. This last dialogue is also proof of something that at this point may sound very cliche, and that is that appearances are deceiving. Um, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, like our verger's case. In many situations, you can get pleasantly surprised by other people's abilities or secrets, we can say, that are hidden behind their appearance. And what I find most interesting about appearances in the story is the fact that our character, our main character, is being judged at a church because of one disability he has, and that is being not able to read or write, despite of all his abilities, all these abilities he has shown through his years working there. What's more, the vicar and the church wardens don't seem to have a solid reason to judge our main character. This is clearly the result of their retrograde thinking, as we can see here. This is interesting because it sounds contradictory. He's working at a church and he's being judged when Jesus Christ, many centuries ago, said, "Don't judge or you will be judged." Variety of knowledge is another topic this story talks about. We're constantly told that academic knowledge is probably the most important one, and success in life revolves around it. This is not always true, and our main character is proof of it. When we get to know him, we learn that even if he is illiterate, he gets to live a good life. He is good at what he does and he works devoutly. This is something that he actually seems to enjoy. And when he gets in this predicament with his job, he still manages to go through it, and in the end, he becomes more successful than he was before. All because of his capacity, of his skills to recognize an opportunity and invest on it. Here we can see the moment he recognizes a good opportunity and starts thinking about a possible solution for his unemployment. From this, I understand that intelligence, knowledge, has many forms. Nowadays, we have many theories that speak about it. We call them multiple intelligences. But probably in this story, people aren't aware of this. Being able to recognize people's needs, propose creative ideas, and do all of this in which is probably not the best emotional state required a great use of intelligence, a great effort, and our protagonist does it perfectly. There is a famous saying that goes like, "You can't judge fish by its ability to fly." And it is completely right. Our protagonist was being judged at the church because he wasn't able to read or write, but in the end, he ended up being a very good businessman. Finally, I'd like to talk about dedication. To me, probably one of the most important traits, personality traits, to have in order to live a good life is dedication. How much of ourselves we dedicate to our goals say how interested we are in achieving them. In any case, dedication has like many layers. It's not one full thing. Suppose we have a life goal of being millionaires, and each smaller objective we propose in order to get that ultimate goal should be fully completed, and in order for them to be fully completed, we should fully devote ourselves to complete them. For example, imagine one of these objectives is getting a part-time job. At the same time, we study, we train for, I don't know, business management. Um, if we perform badly in this job because we are not entirely devoted to it, entirely dedicated to it, we probably won't last long enough working there, which could result in our training not being completed due to lack of economical resources. This situation obviously could be different if we devote ourselves to this smaller task the same way we would dedicate ourselves to the ultimate goal. In the story, dedication appears in different forms. First, we see Albert as a person dedicating devotedly to his job. A year later, when his business idea started to work, he dedicated himself to make it grow, as we can see here. This is a more obvious instance of how dedicated he was to make his business grow bigger. I'd like to conclude this video by saying that this is a story that reflects situations that happen in real life, usually happen in real life, from people not being recognized by their skills or their ability to do things, but instead being judged by their inabilities or appearances, to people succeeding in life just by following their instincts or their common sense. This story, of course, teaches us a lesson of accepting ourselves and others too, and of course, validating all kinds of intelligence, not only the ones we were taught to respect.